Okay, we got, oh, that's better. Is that better? Everybody can hear me. Okay, perfect. Okay, if everybody wants to have a seat, we'll keep the ball rolling here. We got lots more to cover, lots more content to get into. So we're anxious to get into the next section here. So I am Renee Resco, as Mike said earlier. I'm the Vice President of Development for the center, which is just a nice way of saying I ask people for money. And so hopefully today I'm going to give you some ideas about also asking people for money, but hopefully making it a little bit less scary. I think a lot of people are a little bit intimidated by the idea of asking for money and fundraising, and it can be something that's not comfortable for everybody. So I wanted to put these quotes up here to give you a little different way of thinking about it. I always want people to think of fundraising as providing people with an opportunity. It's a very special thing that you're offering to them. You're giving them a chance to be a part of something bigger than themselves, something that's going to leave a legacy for decades to come, and something that is going to have a lot more meaning than anything they can buy, any trip they can go on, any special, dinner that they can have. And I do, as Mike said, we have the opportunity to work with a lot of wealthy people, but they always say that nothing feels as good as giving to something that you believe in. And so hopefully you can reframe that a little bit and feel a little bit more like you're providing something to them rather than feeling like you're, kind of with your hands out begging, which is sometimes what people say to me. How do you feel? How do you go and ask people for money with your hands out? But you have to think of it as doing something for the animals. It's not for yourself. And I'm trying to make sure I get through these slides. I haven't used this before, so let's see how this goes. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to talk about in addition to that concept is thinking like your donor, being donor-centric. These are some of the ideas that I want you to kind of internalize. It's really important for us as fundraisers, and you're all fundraisers, everybody in this room is a fundraiser, to think about what your donor's trying to accomplish and what they're trying to achieve through their giving. Because a lot of times we go into these conversations thinking like, well, this is what we need. We need a new surgical table, we need a new van, we need this, we need that. And that's obviously an important part of the equation, but I don't think that you can really be successful if you don't think about what your donor is trying to accomplish. What is their goal? And why are they even interested in your organization? I mean, you want to get down to just really what drew them to your group and why they believe in the work that you're doing. And one of the things that that's always like kind of the first question that I ask as I try to get to know somebody is why they even were, attracted to the work that you're doing. I like to get to know everybody on a really personal level and understand, where that giving comes from. But for some people, it could be a memorial. Maybe they had a special pet that really touched their life and they want to do something to memorialize that pet. Maybe it's a person that was really close to them that they want to do something special to memorialize. Oftentimes I find that, especially spouses, unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their spouses. They really want to do something special to honor them as they were an animal lover, and that's something that's really important to them. And so you want to think about ways that you might be able to do that through their giving. And they also might just feel that animal welfare is something that's really deep in their heart, and they want to make sure that they leave something behind when they're gone, that people know that that was something that was important to them. Or they want to leave an example for their children or their grandchildren about what are the things that they value, and that is part of the equation as well. One of the things that we do at the center is that we have giving levels. And now I know, and I want to really speak to the fact that I know there's all different size groups here. I heard you guys talking to Mike. I heard what you said, that a lot of us are little. We're not big organizations. So hopefully I can speak at all different levels. I'll do my best to be able to do that so that I'm really trying to meet the needs of everybody here. But it is really important to think about creating some levels for your donors so that they feel part of different kind of membership, groups. That's what we have at the center. Our bottom level starts at 150. 250, and then it goes up to 250, 500, 1,000, and so on. And that just helps you as you're segmenting donors into groups and you're asking them to, you always want to be moving them up through the levels. Maybe your bottom level is $20 or $25, and then you're try to get them to give 50 the next time and 100 the next time. You should always be trying to move them up to the next level. That's always the goal. And how do you build them to the point that they're a major donor? And what is a major donor might look very different to me than it does to you. A major donor might be $1,000, and that's amazing. Or maybe a major donor is $500. So you have to decide for your organization what those different levels look like, but you always want to be thinking about how can I take the people I have and move them into that next higher level. Also wanted to talk about recognition. As we just discussed, for a lot of people, leaving a legacy or memorializing somebody is an important part of their giving. But there's other ways that you can recognize your donors. We do a newsletter that comes out once a year just for the purpose of recognizing and thanking our donors. I highly recommend that you have some kind of a newsletter. I know for a lot of you, print is not even on the table. I totally understand that. So digital is great. You can certainly do quarterly newsletters that go out digitally, just letting your donors know this is what we're doing, these are the activities that you're supporting, and this is where your money is going. Our newsletter is in your folder. It's the companion, just so you can kind of have a reference for the type of things that we include in there. I always tell my team when we're sitting down to work on that, we need to be thinking about the stories. What are the stories that are going to compel people to donate, compel people to stay involved with your organization? And if you remember nothing else, remember this. It is the story of the one that makes the difference when it comes to donations. It is not going to be statistics and just throwing out numbers of how many animals you're helping or how many spay neuters you're doing or whatever. It's that particular story of that cat or that dog that had a medical emergency and you were there for them. Maybe they had parvo and your staff stayed up all night keeping them alive and making sure they got a second chance. Or maybe it was the mom cat that was found at the side of the road pregnant and they had abandoned her and you took her in and gave her a chance to have her babies and be in a safe environment to take care of them. And those photos and those stories, that is what touches people's hearts and that is what motivates them to give. And make no mistake about that. I mean, we know that all as animal lovers in this room, right? I mean, I still cry every story that I read, every special, mom dog or mom cat, when I hear where they came from and how they've suffered and they've done everything possible to protect their kittens or their puppies, and then they end up with us and they can be safe and they can be warm and they can know that they have a meal coming, and that touches all of us. So just remember, those are the stories that are also going to touch your donors at the same time. The other thing I'm going to mention is events. Now, I know for a lot of you, you're thinking, where would I have an event? I don't even have a facility. So again, I want to speak to the whole room and make sure I'm kind of helping you guys brainstorm a little bit about how you might do that. I do want to maybe get you thinking about some places in your community that you could use. I think it is important to get together with your donors in whatever environment you're able to do that. So maybe you have a local library that has a community room and you could have a little reception. Or maybe there's a local business that would let you use their conference room, so that you could have a little presentation. Or maybe there's, an amazing room like this at a local hotel that they would loan you to do something for your donors. But I think it is nice, at least as often as you can. Maybe it's once a year, maybe it's a couple times a year, that you could get your donors together, maybe at least your donors that you consider your more significant ones, whatever level that is, and share with them, this is what our organization is doing, this is our vision, this is where we're going, and this is why you should support us. Because what you want to do is make personal connections, and you can only do so much of that through mail or email or texting. That's all good too, but I think face-to-face is always the most beneficial way to connect with your donors. And of course, if you can go visit people in their homes, I do that all the time. That's a wonderful thing to do too. Not everybody's comfortable having somebody visit them, but if I have a chance to visit somebody in their home, I'm always all over that. I'm happy and delighted to have that time, that personal one-on-one time with them. And that is truly how you build those relationships and form those connections. I do have signage on here. Again, I know a lot of you don't have facilities. If anybody in this room is thinking about doing a capital campaign or you're working on a capital campaign, I'm very happy to talk with you about that at another time, or we can set up a meeting to do on the phone or whatever. I do have signage programs that I have for each of our buildings. As Mike said, we're rebuilding the center, so we're on our third building, and I do all that myself. So if you ever want to kind of brainstorm about how to set up some different giving levels and ways that you could recognize people with signage, I'm happy to do that. And if any of you do have a current facility, you can put up signs at any time. It's not like it has to be a brand new building to put a sign up. So if you've got a current building and you've never really done donor signage, maybe you set up in your lobby and you create a special little area like a donor wall of fame or something like that with some paws up there or something cute, and then you start, putting some plaques up there. You can sell those for money, and that's something that people love to do. So, don't feel like, we're not building a new building. If you have something current in place, any kind of facility where you might be able to put some donor recognition, you can absolutely do that. And that goes for vehicles too. Like, let's say you want to get a new van and you're thinking, well, how am I going to recognize a donor on a van? Boom, slap their name on that. We've actually just had a donor that bought us a truck, and I got a picture of her dog, Bucky, that she wanted to memorialize, and he's bigger than life on the side of that truck, and she's really happy about that. So you can do something like that on any kind of a vehicle as well. So you just got to get creative and think about ways that you might be able to recognize those important recognition opportunities. Sorry I'm so slow with this mouse. I'm not a good mouser. Here we go. I should be, though, as a cat person, though, right? What am I doing here? Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, so these are some other things I wanted to mention as far as donor relationships. Connecting your donors with results. Absolutely so critical, so important. Can't say enough about this. I get a lot of good feedback on that. It's one of the things I'm really proud of. I think that I do a good job of. I have what I consider kind of my top people, my people that are always on my radar. I've obviously got a big group of people that support the center, about 10,000 that I have to manage. But in my kind of smaller group that I'm always got my eyes on, there's probably about 40 of them. And I'm always trying to keep them in the loop. What's going on at the center? What's exciting stories are happening? What's heart-touching? What's going to move them? And then these are the cases we're talking about, right? Like the parvo puppies, like the mom with the kittens, and all of those amazing things that we see every day, right? Animals that come in and literally are on their, last opportunity for anything good to happen in their lives, and then we're taking them in, we're getting them the care that they need, and then they're going to go to a great home. And so when I have a case that comes through my door and it seems like something a donor wants to hear about it, boom, I sit down, put a little email together, get some photos in there, and shoot it out. Now, that only takes a matter of maybe like 15, 20 minutes, but I'm sharing it with all the people that can help me. And they love feeling like they're kind of on the inside scoop of what's going on at Helen Woodward Animal Center. Because, yes, they're going to get that quarterly newsletter, and that's great, but isn't it nice to make that special group feel even a little more special, that they're knowing exactly what's going on? And especially like during kitten season, I know who my cat people are. I know who my dog people are. The cat people love getting those little kitten pictures. They love seeing our whole maternity ward when we've got all the kittens going and all the moms and babies. And I love sharing those stories with them, and they love seeing those pictures and hearing those updates. And a lot of them love to give in a more personal way. So like during kitten season, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but we do a baby shower campaign. I'm sure a lot of you probably do something like that, or if you haven't, you should. Baby shower campaigns are great. And we also allow people opportunity to use the Amazon wish list. So we put all the things we need on our Amazon wish list. So if they want to not just send money, but maybe they want to buy formula, maybe they want to get some heating pads or some scales and feel like they're making a more personal impact on the fosters and on the people who are taking care of the kittens, they can do that. And so that's, again, thinking like, what is it that your donors are trying to satisfy, and knowing that sometimes it's not just writing a check or sending a gift online, that they want to do something a little bit more personal. Managing relationships and data. I'm going to talk more about databases in a minute, but what I want to say about that is it's very important that you guys have a system for tracking your donors. And I know that again, for small groups, that probably seems like, oh gosh, how do we even begin, thinking about this? Well, there are a lot of great resources now that are free or low cost that organizations can use, but you want to start getting your donor names, addresses, emails, phone numbers, and obviously their giving history. So if somebody gives $25 or $50 or whatever, you want to be able to send them a thank you letter or a thank you email, however you want to do it. I like letters still, old school, but some, orgs might not be able to afford that, and emails are fine too. But you want to be able to say, okay, boom, I sent them a thank you letter. They got that. And then I'm putting them on my list to get my newsletter. And now they're on that list. And you want to make sure you're not losing anybody, that everybody is going into some kind of a system where you're tracking them and you have their information. And I can't say enough about that and how important it is. It is really it will become, hopefully, the lifeblood of your organization. And one of the things I want to mention, especially for you smaller guys out there, because I want to speak to everybody, you might be thinking, well, we don't have some big list, okay? We've got people that come in and adopt, we've got some fosters, and, maybe that's kind of all we have to work with. Well, that's okay. That's a great place to start, right? So, I was just working with a group in San Diego before we left a few days ago, and I said, well, do you guys, have people that come in and visit your animals? Oh, yeah. Okay, are you collecting their names and their emails? Well, maybe not. So anybody that comes in contact with your organization, get their name and their email at the absolute minimum, right? Whether they're looking at an animal to adopt, volunteering, fostering, all these people, anybody who touches your organization, you need to be collecting their information. But beyond that, have you thought about doing some outreach in the community? Maybe go to some community festivals, some community fairs. That can be done by volunteers. We use volunteers for that quite a bit. And again, then you're maybe putting together a little cute basket like Gwen has done here with all these cute little giveaways. And you set up a table, and maybe you have a dog basket and a cat basket, and say, hey, put your card in here and you could win. You could win one of these cute baskets. And look at you, you're starting to collect some names and addresses and emails, right? So anytime you have an opportunity to go out and do something like that, that's just think of it as a collection time. This is not time to collect some names, collect some addresses, collect some emails, and start building your list, because that list is really important. And that's really how you're going to build any kind of a donor base. And you've got to have that if you're going to start building up your funding sources. This is just talking about different groups of donors. And of course, we all know we've got all different ages, right, of people that are involved with your organization. I like to talk about this just briefly because a lot of times people will say to me, well, why do we still have to mail things? And I know some of you can't afford that, and I get that. But if you can afford to mail some things, there are a certain segment of donors, maybe some of your older folks, they're not doing email. I have some donors that are like, I don't have email. I don't do that. So I'm still printing out everything I send them and then putting it in the mail, and that's the way they like to receive things. Now, more and more, I think our donors are becoming very much more tech savvy. Our giving online has grown exponentially. We get a lot less in the mail and a lot more online than we used to. So I think we're transitioning in that direction. But there's still a group of people who are, maybe your seniors that like to receive things in print, and, that has value for them. So the other thing I just segmented is kind of how they see their philanthropy. And for seniors that might be more sharing their experience, and they feel they have a lot of life experience to share with you. When you're talking about millennials, they're really into impact and social change. And then I would say our youngest donors are very much of the entrepreneurial spirit. And one thing that, because I've been doing this for over 30 years now, which is crazy to say, but I've seen such a big shift in donors in terms of their expectations. I think when I first started doing fundraising, it was much more kind of that warm, fuzzy feeling. And that was all people needed, and that was good. But now, a lot of the younger donors that I work with are very sophisticated. They want financial statements. They want reports. They want to look at your budgets. They want to understand everything about how your organization works before they invest in you, because they see it as an investment of their money and their resources, and they want to know exactly what your organization looks like. Are you healthy fiscally? Are they feeling good about investing in you and that you guys have a future? So these are things that you want to be able to show them and to discuss with them so that they feel comfortable. And that's an important part of understanding how you're interfacing with your donors. Okay, now grant writing I know might be, again, something that's not on the radar for a lot of you, but I was curious to know how many of you are writing grants right now, or is that something that you're thinking about doing? Okay, there's actually quite a few of you that are doing grant writing. That's great. So I wanted to get into some of the resources that you can use, and then some of the pieces that you need to put in place. And maybe even if you're not writing grants currently, this can kind of get your wheels turning about some of the things that you need to put in place in order to be able to sit down and do some grant writing. The hardest thing, I think, for a lot of groups is just to figure out putting all the pieces together to put it into a proposal. And it sounds simple, but in some ways it's really a process of determining what is our program budget, what are our program needs, and getting everybody on the same page in terms of what those are. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but this is just some resources. Obviously everything's online now, so that's really nice. And of course I would always say go to your big guys, you know, your Petco, your PetSmart, even your Bissell. Those groups are all, you know, wonderful supporters. And then there's a lot of, like, Bob Barker has a foundation that helps small groups. Doris Day has a foundation that supports small groups. So there's a lot of foundations that you find that actually are looking to support smaller groups. Like, we're not even eligible for some of these grants because we're too big. So you might kind of hone in on that if you are a smaller organization. There are a lot of groups that are really committed to spaying and neutering, and that's an area that's definitely a real hot button for a lot of grant support, for sure. Transport is also a real hot button issue for a lot of groups. So think about, you know, maybe some of the ways that you can put together proposals that focus in on those areas that you know are of interest. I also really encourage you to think about your local businesses. If you don't have any kind of connection to your local business journal, you might think about subscribing to it. You know, you can do it online. It's usually pretty cheap, like $10 a month or something. It's good for you to know what are your local businesses in your community, who's growing, who's shrinking, who's coming in, who's going out. Boise seems to be a very I don't know what the word is, bustling community. You guys seem like you're growing like crazy, which is awesome for all of you, and you should take advantage of that opportunity. If you see that a lot of new businesses are coming into your area, you know, those are all potential partnerships for you. So I would really tune into that community type of information. Also, I don't know if Boise has a community foundation. Can anybody tell me? Do you guys know if you have a Boise foundation or Boise Community Foundation? Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, Idaho Community Foundation. That's great. So San Diego has something similar just for San Diego, but I imagine it's similar. And what these big foundations do is they actually are a place where wealthy people can put their money and have that organization oversee it for them. So they can give them, let's say, $1 million and say, okay, I love children and I love animals. Can you help me figure out where my money should go? And then that foundation has the responsibility of helping them either find organizations they could give their money to, or actually giving the money away for them, kind of depending on the way the funds are set up. But those are great places for you to connect to, because not only do they oftentimes have their own funding buckets that they can give from, they also can connect you to these donors. So you want them to be aware of who you are, you want them to know about what you're doing, and make sure that you're on their list if someone comes to them and says, you know, I'm really interested in spaying and neutering. Who's involved in that in Boise? Like, you know, what groups? And I know we have people from Montana and other places too, but your next biggest city, wherever that is, should have a community foundation. It's quite common now, or your state. Maybe Montana. I don't know if anybody's here from Montana that can speak to that, but I definitely know that that's a very common resource. They also have a lot of great online resources at their facility that you can use, and they don't charge you for any of that, of course. So I would highly recommend that you tap into your either local or state community foundation if you haven't done that as a possible resource. Okay, next slide. I just want to talk a little bit about all the pieces that need to kind of fall into place when you sit down to work on a grant. Now, I highly recommend trying to make contact if you can. Now, a lot of places are not that keen on that these days. Find it harder and harder to have contact with another human, but some places do give you the ability to call, which is always great, and try to talk to somebody and say, hey, this is our organization, this is what we do, this is what we're about. You know, are we a fit for your organization, and you know, what program would you recommend that we ask funding for? And a lot of people are really great to do that and give you some good information that's insightful and helpful as you go through that process. A lot of times they might just have a website, and maybe you have to kind of do your own research. But the thing here is that you don't want to waste your time writing grants that you're not a good fit for, because who has time for that, right? I mean, you barely have time for writing grants that you do fit for. So let's make sure that we do the research and we know who we're a match for. And like, they might have stipulations, like some of them say, you can't have a budget over $1 million a year or whatever, and or that you have to be, all of them are going to require 501c3. I'll just tell you that right off the bat. Hopefully everybody's got that in place. That's going to be required from pretty much any grant making organization. And then you want to think about, as I said earlier, what are your program needs? And be clear about your vision or your mission statement. That's another thing a lot of organizations struggle with. Everybody needs to be on the same page. What is the vision for your organization? What is your mission? Now, our kind of short version of ours is people helping animals and animals helping people. That's what Helen Woodward Animal Center is all about. Not only do we have the adoptions, but we're really focused on therapeutic and educational programs that are animal-centric and bring animals and people together for mutual benefit. That's our tagline. So you want everybody involved with your organization to know, and be able to quickly say, what is it that you're about? We rescue bunnies and we give them medical care and we get them into loving adoptive homes. Whatever that one sentence quick statement is that you want to be able to relay about your organization. Or maybe your focus is spaying and neutering. Or maybe that's, you've got a mobile clinic and you go out in the community and you spay and neuter cats and dogs and help low-income communities or something like that. But you just want to make sure that everybody affiliated knows what it is that you're about and what you're trying to accomplish, and that that's something that you can quickly share with other people. And as you're sitting down to write a grant, you want to think about what your needs are and prioritize them. That's another challenge for a lot of organizations, right? Thinking about, okay, what is it that we need? What is the most important things that we need to have in place in order for us to be able to grow or to pay somebody a salary or be able to have this new facility that we need to rent or whatever those specific needs are. And some of this has to do with strategic planning and figuring out what's your game plan, what does the next 5 years look like? And I know, again, some of these things seem a little bit overwhelming, but you kind of have to have a game plan. Otherwise, when you go to talk to a funder, you're not going to seem, very organized. So if you know for a fact, okay, we want to rent a building, we want to have a surgical suite, we want to offer a low-income clinic, some of these things, some of these goals for your organization are what you want to, kind of put down on paper and make sure that everybody understands and everybody adopts and embraces. It's important. And then budgets. Budgets are tricky. That's something I know a lot of groups kind of struggle with. That's something that you really want to do organizationally and then also programmatically. So what I mean by that is, as a whole organization, you want to have a budget. What are all the expenses? Everything. You want to make sure you're considering your overhead. Like, we're talking lights and water and phone service, all the basics. If you have a facility, if you don't have a facility, then maybe you're looking at what's our, gas costing us? What do we have to pay for supplies for our fosters? What do we need to do in terms of, renting vehicles? I don't know what all the expenses might be, but really ironing out everything that you're spending money on in order to run your programs. And it is very important also, as you're thinking about maybe paying somebody a salary, hopefully, that's something that you can also request funds for. But again, what's that first position or that second position look like? For most organizations, it's maybe paying an executive director, maybe paying like one person, that founder or executive director type position, and at least having that one paid position in place. The other thing you might want to do when you're thinking about trying to get that funded is that if you're doing a staff position, it's really great if you can get 2 years of funding. I was working with a little group, again, in San Diego, different one, and we were able to find a funder that was able to pay 2 years of an executive director's salary. So that gave them like a little breathing room. So they had the 1 year of getting that person established, up and running, working on donor relationships, but then they knew, oh, okay, we got another year covered. So we've got 2 years of this person's salary and they're covered, and they can start building those donor connections and relationships. And then your program budget. So like for us, when I submit a grant, I'm submitting the Helen Woodward budget, but then I'm also submitting the budget for adoptions. What are all my expenses just for adoptions? And obviously medical is going to be a big one. Staff is going to be a big one for us. But then all the supplies that you need, if you have to buy your own food, what is that costing you? Maybe flea and tick medication or vaccines and, all those different things. You want to think about all of that. I do want to mention, actually, before I leave that vaccine topic, Petco Love has a great vaccine program. Are any of you guys involved in that? Isn't that great? Yeah. So they actually will provide the vaccines for free and pay you for vaccinating animals. So if you haven't looked into that, Petco Love, and I think pretty much everybody is eligible. I think if you can kind of prove what you're doing and who you are in your 501c3, they'll help you with that. Yeah. Thank you. You're right. It has to be community animals. Like for us, we can only use it for our mobile unit that serves the pets of the homeless. Yeah, it can't be animals at our facility. So, but if you do any kind of mobile outreach or if you have a community clinic, that would all be provided. And then supporting materials. This is another important piece you want to have. That's your 501c3. They want to see your tax exemption for sure. They're going to want to see some financial statements. So again, if you haven't put something like that in place that shows your financial status, you need to work on that. There are a lot of CPAs and attorneys, actually, I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but who are willing to donate their time to help organizations. So they do what they call pro bono work, and a lot of professionals are happy to do that, especially if they're an animal lover. So if you have the ability to tap into some of those people in the community, they can be extremely helpful and a great resource to you. So think about doing that if you haven't done that, and maybe that might be a potential board member, also something to think about. And then the boilerplate dot there, or line item is really about the fact that once you write your grants, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You've written a grant for a van for spaying and neutering. Next time you go and you apply to someplace else, okay, maybe it's a little bit different the way they want it laid out, but you're basically providing the same information. So once you've written each of your grants, like maybe you've got a spay neuter one and you've got a salary for a veterinarian one and you've got a new van one, you're not going to have to like recreate something completely different every single time. You're basically taking those templates and you're just tweaking them a little bit. So what I want to say about that is that grant writing should hopefully get easier. So once you've done some of those basics and you've got them in place, then you're really just kind of tweaking them each time. So hopefully that makes it seem a little bit less daunting. And then, of course, tracking and reporting. Now, great if you have a database that you can do this in, because you want to have all of the foundations you're applying to in this database, and you want to be able to track, okay, whose deadlines are coming up, when are those deadlines, and make sure somebody's on it. Okay, so we've got one due in July, we got to start working on that in May. We've got a report due in August, who's doing that, make sure that you're on top of all of those deadlines. Now, a lot of the organizations, again, now are requiring that you do some type of a report. They want to know how the money was spent, and they want to be very specific about it, some of them. So you're going to have to really make sure you're tracking your expenses and you're monitoring, where the money went that you got through that grant. Now, keep in mind, even if you're not writing grants, you should be doing this for your individual donors as well. So if somebody gives you, and I'm just going to throw out some numbers that I think probably fit, like if someone gives you $5,000 or $10,000, if that's a really big gift for your organization, you want to track that and you want to report back to them. And you want to be able to say, okay, thank you so much for your $5,000. Look what it did. We spayed 50 dogs. We were able to, buy XYZ medical equipment. Maybe we got 10 new surgical packs or whatever. And this is all stuff that you're sharing with them to show this is how your money was spent. And then when you go back next time and you ask for more money, they're going to be a lot more likely to give it to you, knowing, okay, I feel good. I know where the money went. Maybe you share a little story about one of your medical cases, maybe a little picture of some, one of your cute dogs that had to have some medical care. Or maybe you got a mom dog that came in with puppies. Okay, now she's spayed. All the puppies are spayed and neutered. Everybody's ready to go to a new home thanks to you. And that's the kind of thing that people like to see that really makes them feel good. So even if you're not doing grants, you still want to be doing this reporting. It's still important, and you still want to be on top of that. Okay, now direct mail. Now again, okay, I want to make sure I'm speaking to everybody here, because you're probably thinking, direct mail, that sounds very expensive. And it is, I'll be honest with you. So if that's not even, on your radar, then we'll think of this in a couple different ways. One is that anything that you're doing with paper can be now done digitally, right? So a lot of the things I'm going to talk about or tell you about, you can certainly do via email. So even though we're going to talk about it in the sort of the paper form, think of it, also in the digital form. And we'll talk more about online fundraising as well. But I did provide some sample pieces. Hopefully some of you maybe got them in your folders, or maybe they're at the back. I'm not sure where. No, unfortunately, they did not make it to you. We're not sure quite what happened there, because you should have had a packet just like the other ones in there. But I'm going to, Gwen is going to send some follow-up to you, and one of those things that I'm going to follow up with is going to be my presentation. So you will have that for sure. But oh, okay. So Gwen has some samples back there of some direct mail pieces. Also, I believe my card is in all of your folders, or if it's not, it's floating around. Or I have somewhere to give you. But I'm happy to share. In fact, I think probably Gwen can share with all of you all of our emails so that you have our contact information. I am very happy to share with you samples of literally anything that I'm talking about today. And I'm really good about following up with groups. And I don't even know, like probably 30 or 40 groups that I correspond with somewhat regularly. So I'm happy to share. Okay, Gwen's got some more cards she's putting on the table up there. But if you don't get a card, don't panic. Gwen has all of our information. I know that she'd be happy to share it with you as a follow-up and make sure you know how to get in touch with us. But I'm happy to send you some direct mail samples. I'm happy to share with you some of the content that we write. So the important things I think about direct mail, and when I say that, again, think possibly digital, it's the stories. It's all about the stories. So whenever I go to sit down to write a piece, and I usually write them myself, I'm thinking, okay, what has happened in the last few months that is a really touching story? And that's really where I'm always going to begin. And it might be, a dog found in a dumpster with mange, and he looks like he's got these horrible before pictures, and thank God he came to Helen Woodward, and we've got him rehabilitated, and he's getting treatment, and now he looks gorgeous, and he's going to his new home. Or maybe it's a behavior case. Maybe we've got that actually is something we've been doing more of, is kind of sharing with people the importance of behavior intervention as much as medical intervention, because a lot of people don't really think about that. They understand about putting money into surgery and to medical care, but they're not thinking about what you're putting into training, which is just as important to placing an animal, right? So we've been sharing some cases like that lately, and people respond quite well to it. So I think behavior is something we're going to spend a little bit more time sharing with people, because when an animal comes in and they're incredibly fearful, or they're food possessive, or they're reactive, or whatever they've got going on, that is not a behavior that's going to get them adopted, as we all know. So putting time into their training and getting them where they need to be in order to go to a new home on that front is just as important. So whatever that story is for that mailing is what you want to have in your mind going in, and then you're going to write a special story about that animal. And photos are really important. I mean, photos absolutely make your case. And then you want to maybe weave it into something that's going on. Like we usually do a Mother's Day mailer. Obvious opportunity to have, the mom with the puppies, the mom with the kittens, and how your organization rescues these animals. At Helen Woodward, we have the wonderful situation of having 400 fosters. And so we're able to take newborn animals with no mom and do bottle feeding. We're able to take pregnant animals, allow them to have their babies, and come back to the center when they're big enough to be spayed and neutered. So those are some of the stories that I like to share with people that are really meaningful. And those are, stories that you're going to share through your direct mail. And I think when I talk about acquisition and upgrade, you might not even necessarily be familiar with those terms, but basically what it means is that you've got two groups of people. Acquisition is brand new people. And that's what we're talking about when we say going out to community events, gathering emails, gathering addresses, getting names of people. Now, that can be done also through sharing lists. You might find other organizations in your community that are willing to share lists with you. I feel that that's gotten a lot harder. I used to do a lot of swapping, and now I don't have as many groups that are willing to swap with me. And I'm not saying go to your competitor across the street who's doing exactly what you're doing and ask them to give you their list and vice versa. That's probably not necessarily going to go over. But maybe you have a local hiking group, or maybe you have a local nature conservancy group, or maybe you have a children's museum in your community, like where you feel like there could be some crossover, and maybe you can share lists with each other. That's another way to grow your list. You might also think about having an event together. If there's a group that you feel like has some affinity to the type of people that support the work that you're doing, maybe you guys have a little event and they get to know your people and you get to know their people. But it's, figuring out how to get names. That's, really a big part of it. And then selecting and segmenting lists. So again, as I said, we're always going to be trying to move people to the next level. If they're 150, we want them to 250. If they're 250, 500, and so on. And then how did we do? So we do a mailing, and then we need to find out, evaluate it. did we get the results that we wanted from it? Did that list work? Was that list a bust? Did that mailing work? Like we tested the behavior modification concept because we thought, were people going to give money to that? Or are they going to be like, I'm not that interested in supporting training? But actually, people really responded really well to that particular story of a dog that needed a lot of help dealing with his reactivity. So that actually was a test for us, to see if people would respond to that, and they did. You might test something, even more simple, like maybe dog stories versus cat stories, and kind of try to figure out, where your people fall in terms of their interest there. Those are all important parts of the direct mail process, whether you're doing it digitally or with paper. Data management. So exciting. This is such an important part of what we do, but as I said, I know it's not something a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about or necessarily want to spend a lot of time thinking about. But I have listed here some free and low-cost database options, and I would love to hear if anybody in the room has something they're using that they think is working great, or if they're, really a big fan of whatever system they have. I do want to tell you guys I've heard a lot of good things about GiveButter, which is completely free to nonprofit organizations. So does anybody have anything they want to share about what they're using, or if they're using, or if anybody's using GiveButter? I'd love to hear about that. Yeah. Wonderful. Yes. Love it. Not familiar with it. How do you spell that one? I love it. I learn about new things all the time. Mm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Great job. That's wonderful. And did you use Zephy for that? So, just so I understand the difference for everybody between GiveButter and Zephy, what does Zephy do that GiveButter doesn't do? Just so I understand. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Fantastic. Great job. Oh, but I mean, you guys are doing a great job. Fantastic. Love that. Thanks for sharing that. That's so helpful. Yeah. And is yours free? Is okay. So Kayla's. Oh, okay. Okay. A lot of them are like that. They're based on how many names you have in your system, and they charge you by the storage fee, basically. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Anybody else? Keela, and then if you guys all heard Zephy, which is Zeffy, and then of course GiveButter, which is up on the screen. And then these are some other ones: Little Green Light, Monday, HubSpot, Donor Perfect. Network for Good Salsa and Neon. And then one thing I also want to mention about Give Butter is they do have auction tools and the peer-to-peer fundraising, which is great. And some of you might be like, what is peer-to-peer fundraising? I don't even know what that is. So basically what that means is that somebody can set up their own web page and say like, hey, Fluffy's having a birthday. Would you guys all, make a donation to my favorite animal org in order to help celebrate Fluffy? And it's just really nice to give people a tool to reach out to their friends and family about something they care about. So like we have people that do that for, now weddings and birthdays. And I think a lot more people are kind of getting into the idea of like why give people things? Why not give them something that's a little bit more meaningful to them? And giving to their favorite org is something that, really touches people. The other thing that we do, which is a little bit off track, but I'll mention it because it's relevant here, is we have little e-gift cards that we do for people. So they can buy someone a spay neuter, they can buy someone a vaccine, they can buy someone a transport and give it as a gift. So we promote them for Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation, and then they could send it to the recipient and say, hey, in your honor, 10 spay neuter surgeries were underwritten at Helen Woodward Animal Center because, we know that you're passionate about animal welfare and, happy Father's Day or whatever. So that's kind of another cool idea. And again, it's all digital, so it doesn't cost you anything, but the recipient gets a cool little e-gift card that we design. And there's lots of resources for those templates online too. Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. Great. Oh, I love that. That's a really good resource. I've never heard of Zeffy, so thank you for sharing that. That's great. That's why I love everybody coming together, all the ideas. Everybody's doing different things and having success in different places. So this is good information. Anybody else want to add? Just a couple other things I want to talk about here with managing donor data. Obviously for some of you, maybe just getting started with a database, some important things you want to do are make sure that you're respecting people's privacy. So you do always want to give them the option to, not receive mailing or not share their name with anybody and those types of things. You also want to make sure that you're keeping it up to date. So there's something called the NCOA, which is the National Change of Address. And once you get to a point where you have a good amount of names, you probably want to run an NCOA, maybe once a year or so, and then you can find out who's moved, who's got a new address, and so that you're not wasting money sending items out to people who are no longer at that address. Just want to mention that too. Any questions on that before we move on? Yeah. So basically my policy on that, well, not just my policy, but the center's policy is that somebody certainly can say they don't want their list exchanged, but if they don't say that they don't want their name, then we kind of feel like nonprofit to nonprofit, we don't have any issue with doing that. So, and people always have the ability to opt out and say don't share my name with anybody, but we do normally do that otherwise with other nonprofits. Anybody else? So we're not selling them. I guess maybe that would be the difference. I never sell names to anybody, but we do exchanges. Okay, online fundraising. We kind of talked about that a little bit, just in what we were just talking about right there with Give Butter and Zeffy. But what I wanted to talk about here is kind of branding campaigns across all your platforms, right? And Alexa is going to do a deep dive into all the social media platforms and everything that's out there as tools for you. But in this case, I want you to think about let's say year end is coming, right? And I want to encourage everybody, if you don't do anything all year long, please do a year end campaign. So important. That is the time of year when people are most motivated to give, they are most likely to give, and you have the best shot of making some good money for your organization. And when I say end of the year, I mean November. It's not December. You actually want to get something out by the beginning of November. because by December, people are already having fatigue over the holidays. So you want to get in there early. Another big holiday I kind of like to mention to people is Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is a great one because it's literally international. Everybody knows now that Tuesday after Thanksgiving, we've got the Cyber Saturday or Monday or whatever, all the different things. But then Giving Tuesday, everybody's hearing this messaging literally worldwide saying, give donations on Tuesday after Thanksgiving. That's your chance to hopefully redeem yourself from all the retail therapy that you've done and do something good for your community. So there's going to be a lot of support for your messaging. So I highly encourage you to think about doing something for that as well. So those two things, end of the year, maybe the first week in November, get something out, and then Giving Tuesday. So just put those two pitches out there to you to think about getting some campaigns out. But once you design a campaign, again, you see this beautiful kitty here, you're going to pick your animal and a great story. And then that story is going to work across multiple platforms. So you're going to have your website, and hopefully it's got something on there where people are going to give to your holiday campaign, and they're going to see that beautiful dog or that beautiful cat and that story there. And then you're going to also get an e-blast out, and you're going to say, please, this is a year-end giving. We need your help animals like peppermint, and we really need you. This is the important ask of the year to provide medical care and the types of services that we're providing to animals like her. And then, of course, you've got other ways that you can communicate with your donors, which are, those regular e-blasts and touches. And then in addition to, what we do, which is always the direct mail piece as well. So if you don't do direct mail and you're just sending something out digitally, that's fine, but you want to follow it up with some e-blasts. You want to make sure it's coordinated to your website. And then you want to also think about using social media. Alexa is very much part of our team as we're sitting down to plan campaigns, and we all work together in unison. So if we're doing something on Classy for us, which is how we do our campaigns, but Zeffie would be the similar kind of a platform, where we're pushing something out to the public. The nice thing about those platforms, too, I want to mention is that you have the ability to do something really quickly. Like you mentioned the dog hit by a car. That's a great example. So we have an emergency case that comes in, and immediately we want people to know about it. Like we had this dog, Jessica's going to talk about, his name was Louie, and his eyes were not treated, and he had to have them removed, and then the family surrendered him. So he lost his eyesight because they didn't treat his medical condition, and then he had no eyes, and now he had no home. So immediately we wanted to share Louie's story. It was so touching, and he was such a sweet dog, and we could get it out right away. Get that page up there, and then you're shooting it out to your public, and you're saying, help us, help Louie get some rehabilitation. He's going to need some special training. He's going to need some medical care to treat his wounds, and we need your help. And then you can instantly do that. And just like the dog that was hit by the car, we've had those stories too. You can share that right away as soon as it happens in real time. And that's the nice thing about the digital world that allows us to do that. And literally these tools are so easy to use. You can get a page up in like 15 minutes, and you can start fundraising immediately. And that's what's so great about that. But the other thing about social media that I want to mention is thinking about paid ads. Now, paid ads are not expensive. I mean, you can spend $40 and get really good traction on a paid ad to back up a campaign that you're doing. So think about that. And if you have questions on that, Alexa can tell you more about paid ads. But that's a really good way to invest some money that is not super expensive, but you'll get a really great return on it. And those are also great for events. So online platforms, I just wanted to talk about a few. Classy is the one I've been talking about. Now, Classy is expensive, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about that because it sounds like there's a lot of other great tools like Zeffie that you can use. Cuddly.com, is anybody using that? Cuddly.com? No? Okay, interesting. That's free. That's another one I've run across some groups that I've had good luck with. Again, sharing a story, doing a quick turnaround fundraiser. GoGo Photo is great for doing calendar contests and other kind of photo-related contests that can be fundraisers, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But has anybody used GoGo Photo? No? Okay, good. We'll talk about that. And then every.org is a platform for people to give things outside of cash. And by that, I mean stock, real estate. Again, you might be thinking, oh, that's way in the future. But good to know, good to have that resource, even if it's not happening right now. Every.org is good to have on your radar, and that is completely free to nonprofit organizations. So this is just a little example I wanted to share with you. This is Dwayne. Dwayne is probably one of the most special dogs I've ever gotten to meet. He really touched us all deeply. You can see he's very deformed. Unfortunately, he was found on the streets of Tijuana. Someone had taken a wire and wired his mouth shut. And so his skin grew in the way that you can see there, where his teeth and gums are completely exposed. And beyond that, he had been kicked and his hip broken, and part of his ear was missing from a pit bull attack. Nothing against pit bulls, but that is what happened to Dwayne. And then people saw him on the street and thought he was an atrocity, and we were throwing hot water on him. So this poor little angel came to Helen Woodward, and he was the sweetest, most lovely dog. I mean, I can't even tell you how sweet and loving he was. It was just quite incredible to all of us that after what he had been through, he was still so incredibly loving. So he quickly was taken in at Helen Woodward Animal Center, and our veterinarian, our chief veterinarian, Dr. Carter, just fell in love with him and immediately began fostering him. But even better than that, Dr. Carter started working on how she could help him medically. And she's a very talented veterinarian. She's been a vet in shelter world for over 30 years. And she said, I think I can graft some skin from another part of his body and help recreate his face, so that because his gums and teeth will rot without any skin covering them, because there's no saliva getting into his mouth, and he couldn't hold his food in, even, poor thing. So she did that. She had this amazing surgical procedure that she did for Dwayne, and she was able to help rebuild his face to some extent. He still looks a little bit special, but he's able to eat, and his teeth are healthy, and he's doing really well. We also had a veterinarian come forward in the community and said, I'd like to give him stem cell treatment. I think that would help with his recovery after his hip surgery. So we got that donated, and then as you can see, the public responded in incredible numbers. Over $42,000 was raised in about, I think, a week. And what we learned through Dwayne, and I think is true for all of you with these amazing stories, is that people become attached. I mean, we would get emails every day. What's going on with Dwayne? What can you give us an update? We need some more pictures. Is he at his foster home? What's he doing there? They wanted to know. They felt invested in Dwayne, and they wanted to know his story, and we were happy to share it. It was a really challenging journey, but it ended up with him in a beautiful home with a woman named Heather that we love, and she brings him to everything, and we get to see Dwayne all the time, which is amazing. But that story, and that's again the story of the one, really touched people's hearts in a big way. And I think it's just a great example of how important those stories are and how they really raise awareness in people, what your needs are, and the kind of amazing work that you're doing. Okay, GoGo Photo. I just talked about it briefly, but I wanted to get in a little bit more in depth. These are easy fundraisers, and that's why I'm mentioning them. Calendar contest with GoGo Photo. They're doing all the work, really, for you. But what you're doing is you're asking your supporters, submit a picture of your pet, and pay a fee to submit the photo, and then every vote is $1, and whichever animals get the most votes for those 12 spots will be in the calendar. It's an easy fundraiser. It's a great way to raise awareness, get something, in front of your donors, and people love having their pets get recognition. So being in a calendar is, something everyone's going to get excited about. It's something really fun to do. And what we find is at the end, if there's a little battle between a few people to get those last couple spots, the owner of the animal starts putting in money, money, $500, $1,000. Okay, it's going. And then it's always like a little battle at the end to get those last couple spots. But it's a great way to bring in some revenue. Now, don't expect to make money on selling the calendars, because the only people who want the calendars are the people whose animals are in the calendars. So we don't expect any money on the back end. And in fact, I think we give each of the people 10 calendars, so they can give them to family and friends. But that's a fun thing to do. Boo on a Brew. This is something we tried. I don't even know where this amazing idea came from, somebody on my team, but we decided, wouldn't it be fun if they could have their dog or their cat on a local brewery's beer can? And so people love that idea. We raised $10,000 last year. The first year we did it, we actually raised $20,000. I think it had a bit of a novelty factor. After the first year, we didn't have quite as much excitement around it, but it did bring in a good amount of money. And then we unveiled the winner at Puppy Prom, which Jessica's going to tell you about. But that's another fun fundraiser through GoGo Photo. Again, easy to do, and just another fun way to raise awareness and bring money in for your organization. And I know there's a lot of good breweries here. I've heard that. San Diego's a big brew town too. So, Okay, some more ideas about online fundraising. Now, this one was kind of an epiphany to me, even after all the years I've been doing this. So, we had for many, many years at Helen Woodward Animal Center been bringing our puppies out to events. So, that could be a restaurant opening, it could be a car dealership, it could be whatever. And we would happily, pack up our puppies, get them all looking cute and ready to meet the public. We would send our staff or a volunteer, and we would go out to these different events all over San Diego. And then we realized they're bringing business in for all these different folks, and we're not getting anything. What's going on here? We need to rethink this. So we started charging. So we now charge $1,000 for our puppies to go out and visit any event for 2 hours, and we're getting it. In fact, we're quite busy. And this is our Business Buddies program, and I want to tell you about it because, again, maybe it's not $1,000, maybe it's $200, maybe it's $100. I don't know what your community can support, but you should be charging to take your puppies out because that draws customers into those businesses, and they should want to support you financially because you're investing that time and resources into getting the puppies out there, and that should be a partnership. It shouldn't be a one-way street. So I really encourage you to think about doing something like that in terms of outreach. Interestingly, we've been seeing a lot more requests to do this for employee morale. A lot of businesses are struggling to get employees to come to work, period. And so they're doing everything from taco trucks to ice cream Fridays to whatever, and puppies happen to be quite high on the list of what people want to do. So they ask us to bring puppies out, every Friday for a quarter or whatever, and get employees excited about those puppy Fridays or whatever we're doing. So that's something to think about. The other way that the puppy outreach does really well is with like little personal parties. Like we've done bachelorette parties, we've done bridal showers, we've done birthday parties, and people just want to cuddle puppies. Now we do offer this also with pet therapy dogs because we have a pet therapy program, but they always prefer the puppies. I mean, hands down. So who doesn't love to cuddle with a puppy, right? So I want to mention that as another way to bring in some money. I'm happy to share more information about Business Buddies if you want to, us to digitally send you some of our flyers and materials. I'm happy to share those with you. But I wanted to tell you about that program because it was definitely a surprise to me that how much people are willing to pay for that. Along those same lines, before I get into events, I want to mention businesses also are very keen now on having volunteer groups help nonprofits. So we get, I'm not kidding, probably 10 groups a month that come in to do projects at the center. And honestly, a lot of times it's more work for us than the work that they're actually contributing. But what it does, it establishes corporate partnerships for us and relationships, right? So we're not just going to have them come in and do their volunteer project and go on their merry way. Oh, no. They're getting the full corporate pitch. We're going to try to sell them on how they can get involved with Helen Woodward Animal Center. And the other thing I've been doing, too, is asking them to do a food drive before they come. Because I think that's like the minimum, right? At least come bring some food. If you're going to come and spend a few hours with us, bring some food for the animals. But we have projects for them to do, like we have them packaging food for our senior pet food delivery. We have them, painting fences, cleaning stuff in our resale shop, doing craft preparation for camp. And then, of course, they get to meet some puppies. At the end of the day, that's what everybody wants. So this is the event section. Now, I know probably a lot of you are doing, all different sizes and types of events in your community, but I always want to kind of just approach events very carefully and tell people they may not be the solution to your problems that you think they are. Because a lot of times people will say to me, well, my board thinks we should have a big event to raise money. And I think, no, your time is probably better spent cultivating individual donors and building your donor base. That's probably time better spent. But if you do decide you want to do an event, these are some of the things you want to think about. And one of them, of course, is logistics. Do we even have the bandwidth to do this? Do we have the staff? Do we have the volunteers? Does everybody have the time to work on this? Is that even possible? And then demographics. Who's your audience? I mean, do you have people that will come to a dinner that's $200? Or do you have people that want to come to a pasta? I just heard this group doing this cute pasta event with, movie night or whatever with families and bringing their dogs. And so maybe your audience is more, something a little bit less expensive, like $25 a ticket, and they want to do something with their dog. Or maybe it's an outdoorsy crowd, like our surf dog audience that loves to bring their dogs and go to the beach. Maybe they go skiing or rafting or whatever and bring their dog with them. But it's thinking about who your people are and what they would actually come to. And then just being really honest with yourself about expenses, because this is the area that I think a lot of groups don't really think about everything that goes into an event. And that includes your staff time or volunteer time. You know, how much time is everybody putting into this? Do I have to rent equipment? Do I have to rent tables and chairs? Am I buying food or is it getting donated? Am I buying alcohol or is it getting donated? Just all the things that are going to be required to make your event successful. How are you going to procure those items and how much are they going to cost you? These are the ways that money comes in, obviously through an event. Tickets is kind of an obvious one. Now, with Surf Dog, we have a huge challenge. We can't sell tickets. We're not allowed to sell tickets. The beach is open to the public. Anybody can come to the beach, right? So we had to figure out how can we make money off of this event, knowing we can't charge. We have 5,000 people that come watch. Kills me that we can't charge them. But we charge the dogs to participate. And then we really make most of our money on sponsorship because again, 5,000 people are on the beach watching the dogs surf. So it's a great place to be promoting businesses related to dogs, related to surfing, related to, you know, beach activities. It's also gets incredible media coverage. So the media loves this event. So again, that's a chance for, you know, have your name on a huge tent. That's going to be the backdrop for our interviews at Surf Dog. And then, you know, that's going to, you know, result in millions of impressions. So those are some of the ways that we make money on that event, even though we really can't sell tickets to it. But like a dinner or a pasta night or whatever, you're thinking, okay, what's our ticket price and what is our actual cost for the event? And then, of course, auctions and opportunity drawings are great. Pretty much any event that you're doing, you can squeeze one of those in there. Silent auction, you're basically just having some lovely items out that you've gotten people in the community to donate. You're asking people to bid. Winner, you know, whoever puts the highest bid in wins and they get the item. But you need volunteers to go out and get those items. And that's not always so easy, right? So you need maybe like a little volunteer committee that's going to go to your local restaurants and ask for donations, your local casinos and ask for donations, your local spas or whatever, and get donations. And that's going to be an important part of the fundraising that takes place. Opportunity drawing, same thing as a raffle. We're not allowed to use raffle in California. We have to say opportunity drawing. But it's the same concept. It's, you know, basically just having people pay for a chance to win something. But again, you have to get those items. So how are you going to get them? You're going to have to go out in the community and you're going to have to somebody solicit them. So that's, you know, going to require some labor. And then, of course, merchandise. Merch is great. But again, upfront money, because you're buying the shirts, you're buying the hats, and you got to make sure you can sell them. Like we struggle with that ourselves, even like with Surf Dog or PalmaCon. We sold out of all the shirts at PalmaCon. We didn't know. We could have sold more, but we didn't want to have too many and have a bunch of leftovers. So it's always a challenge to guess, like, what's the right price point? How much people are willing to pay? What do people want? And, you know, having the right amount of merchandise. So that's another challenging equation to figure out, but we can certainly help you with that. And then sponsorship, this is going to be key to the success of any event, truly. I mean, you can make a certain amount of money on auctions and participants buying tickets and all that, but at the end of the day, sponsorship is key to getting your costs underwritten. And when you go out in the community and you're looking for sponsorship, it's going to be all about the ROI, return on investment. What am I getting for giving you money to sponsor your event? Am I going to get on your website? Am I going to get on your invitation? Am I going to get in a flyer? Am I going to be able to come to your event and maybe even like say a couple words or show a video or talk to your people and tell them about what I have to offer? Or do I get a booth because it's a big public event and I'm going to have a booth with my items and I'm going to be able to tell people about them? So that's really going to be an important part of being successful with your event. And this might be a place, too, where volunteers can help out. I ask a lot of times volunteers, I'll say, okay, you don't have to ask for anything. I just need you to give me a connection. Like, who do you know at that, you know, car dealership? Who do you know, at that shopping center? And just connect me with that person, and then I'll take it from there. But just open the door. And that's where your volunteers and your board members should be helping you, especially your board members. They should be opening doors for you. That's their job. Corporate partnerships, again, this might seem a little bit high level, but I want to mention it because, again, it's important as you grow. You want to think about how you can create some year-round partnerships. That's something that we're really working on and developing at Helen Woodward Animal Center. We had always done event partnerships, meaning like Fling sponsor, Surf Duck sponsor, Telethon sponsor, but then we started thinking, wouldn't it be better if we could create a sponsorship that lasts all year? So then we're saying, be a part of all of our events. Be a part of our Home for the Holidays campaign that we do to promote pet adoption during the holidays. Like, think of all the things that your organization does throughout the year and talk to the partners about all the ways they could get involved. And then maybe you could get a bigger commitment. And then you're not hustling every few months trying to get new sponsors all the time because you've got some in place. So that's something that I would encourage you to think about. And don't forget about In Kind. This group I was just talking to in San Diego, they are a farm sanctuary. So they spend a ton of money on food. So I said, why don't you figure out all the feed that you buy every month and what your needs are, and then we can approach some animal supply companies, and get your feed taken care of, because that has value for you. That's like cash, because you're spending that money anyway, and you've got to get those resources coming in, and then it's easier for a company to give you something in kind that they already have. They're much more inclined to give you feed or dog food or cat food than they are to give you cash. That's just a fact. So if you can present those opportunities for things you need, like cat litter, dog food, and those types of items, those can be translated into sponsorship dollars, essentially, and you can give them the recognition that they would like. Okay, last topic. I think we're doing good on time. Yeah, we're doing good. Okay, so plan giving. Now, again, this is going to seem like, whew, this is down the road maybe for us, but I want to tell you about it because it's important, and it's something that really is essential to the future of an organization, especially if you want to grow and be, sort of, sustainable over time. And plan giving is really anything outside of your normal cash gifts. So this could be a stock gift. This could be a real estate gift. This could be something more sophisticated, like a charitable remainder trust or a unit trust. There's a lot of different vehicles. But most of the time, what we're talking about is somebody including you in their will. That simple, that basic, and that's usually what we're promoting and what we're marketing and what we're pushing out there. But you've actually got to have a program in order to be promoting that. So this is a number that should be fairly staggering to all of you, as it is to me. I've actually seen that number even higher. I've heard up to $120 trillion are going to be changing hands in the next couple of decades. We're just going through this huge, the baby boomer generation dying, essentially, and leaving money to children, but mostly a lot of nonprofits as well. So there's a tremendous amount of money. This is like a huge generational wealth shift that's happening in the next couple decades. So that's another reason to put this on your radar, because we're talking about a heck of a lot of money. And I can't even tell you how much has come into the center since I've been there. Some incredible gifts. And oftentimes you'll find that animal people, in some cases, love their animals very much, and they're really a higher priority to them in a lot of cases than their maybe other relationships. So just saying, that is your audience. So you want to tap into that. The profile of a plan giving prospect is probably not what you think. It's actually somebody who gives a small amount over a long period of time. So oftentimes I'll find that the person that left us a really big gift, like their home, gave us $100 a year for 20 years or something like that. It's really interesting. It's not necessarily someone who's a big flashy donor like you might think. It's probably somebody who's more consistent over a long period of time. And I know, well, you might be experiencing this in Boise with your boom that you're having now, but a lot of people in San Diego have homes that are significantly worth more than they ever imagined them being worth if they've held it for 30, 40 years. So they bought a home for, I'm not joking, you guys will think I'm joking, but they bought a home for $100,000 that's now worth over $1 million. And we're not talking about big homes. These are 1,200 square feet. But this is San Diego. It's crazy. But Boise might be experiencing some of that, where people who had homes that maybe they bought for $100,000 are now worth $300,000. So that's quite a lot of equity that people have in their homes. Way more. Okay, 400, 500,000. Okay, good. That's all good. I love it. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, no, I've been hearing you guys are booming. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to get on that real estate train, because a lot of these people are leaving their homes to somebody. And if they're not close to family and friends and they want to give it to something that, again, leaves a legacy and something really meaningful to them, you might be on their list, and as you want to be. So how do we market plan giving? How do we get it on the radar of the people who support our organization? How do we push it out there? You want to put it in everything. I have it always in my direct mail pieces. Have you included Helen Woodward in your estate plans? Do you want to know how to include Helen Woodward in your estate plans? I always have it in my newsletter. I always have a story about somebody who included us in their estate plans with a lovely photo and, isn't this wonderful? And how can you give? Well, please, see Renee Resco and she'll tell you all about it. So those are some of the things that I do to keep pushing it out in front of everybody. I also have some really nice web pages that people can go to and read all about plan giving and some different options. But the one thing that I think has made the biggest difference is that we have a pet guardianship program. So if somebody passes away and they don't have someone to take their pets, they can leave them to Helen Woodward Animal Center. And that is a lifetime commitment to their pet. And for a lot of people, again, as I say, who don't have family or friends that they feel comfortable taking care of their dog, or maybe they think, you know what, my sister's a flake. I'm not trusting my dog to her. She's, lovely, but she's not taking care of my dog. I want them to go to a place where I feel good that they're going to get the kind of care that I would give them, and they're going to go to a great home that is of, the highest quality. And we screen for those animals just like we would any adoption, and we place them in a loving adoptive home. And we believe, and some people want a sanctuary, and that's an option for some people, but I think that an animal that's been in a home would be happiest in a home. So we're trying to find them a home that's as close to what they had. And that's a really huge peace of mind issue for a lot of people. They lose sleep over what's going to happen to my pet. And I've had a couple of elderly people, actually just recently, they were like, I finally feel at peace. I feel like I can go when it's my time to go because now I know Helen Woodward is going to be there to get my pets and I don't have to worry about that anymore. And that's a scary thing because you don't want to think about your dog or cat or multiple animals ending up at animal control because there's nobody there for them. And it's really something that weighs on a lot of people. So if you're interested in our pet guardianship program, I'm happy to send you all the information on that. I have a full multi-page policy that I've written and paperwork, profile forms, and things that I can share with you if that's something that you're interested in. But I can tell you it's generated a lot of interest. The other thing I would encourage you to do is connect with a estate attorney in your community that can act as a resource for you. And they, again, will oftentimes be pro bono. I mean, we don't pay them. They volunteer their time to be a resource. And the one that we work with, actually, next week, she's going to be doing a presentation. Every 6 months, I have her come and talk to our donors about estate planning. She's a dog lover, so she always talks about the pet guardianship program. She says, hey, if you haven't thought about it, think about it, talk to Helen Woodward, and make plans. And maybe we're your third choice. Maybe it's first your brother-in-law, then your best friend, and then Helen Woodward. That's fine. But at least have this as a backup plan if you have nothing else lined up. Yeah. Well, they obviously hate animals. No. No, that's really interesting. I've never had pushback. Yeah, no, that's really weird. I would say they just didn't want to give you their time for free. Um, well, I guess I feel like all the people I've encountered have been kind of organic. Have you ever gone back and looked through, have you gotten any estate gifts in your history? But nothing's come in yet. Okay. What I would do, because it's very easy to go online, there is a list of all your estate attorneys in Boise. You're in Boise? I think you're in Boise. So you can just go online and look up all these, and I would just do a mass mailing. I would mail to all of them, and I would say that we have this program, and we'd love to have your support. And if they if you get calls from 6 of them, which would be a great problem to have, then whoever you decide to work with, then the others you just say, oh, please present or share our program with your clients. That's all we're asking, and make sure you've got some kind of material. I gave you guys a brochure, or maybe they're on the back table with our plan giving information, but have something that you can give them to give to clients, and make sure that they're equipped to talk about your program. But I think if you reach out to enough of them, you're going to find at least one that wants to help you. Yeah. Yeah. That was. Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, a lot of people do that. If they're not going to use us, it's great to make sure you've got some money set aside for whoever it is that's going to be taking care of your animals. Obviously there are expenses with taking care of pets, and people are a lot more likely to take that responsibility on, knowing that there's some financial support for that. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Lastly, I just want to mention Free Will. Free Will is actually an organization that promotes planned giving to all constituents of nonprofits, but you have to sign up for it and you have to pay to participate. So it's not cheap. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I'm not entirely sure. We've gotten about 6 new people from it, so I'm not sure that our efforts aren't working better than theirs, but we'll see. It's our first year using them, so I'll decide if we want to continue with that. And then special projects. I just want to wrap up with this, and then I want to show you a cool video, and then we'll be right on time. These are just some other ideas for some kind of more passive, easy income. Car donations are great. If you guys don't have a car donation program set up, real easy passive income. We work with a group called CARS, capital C, capital A, capital R, capital S. They're national. You can set up a program with them. They really take care of everything. You just put a web page on that they're going to provide to you. Donor reaches out, they connect with cars, they pick up the car, they do the DMV paperwork, they auction it off, and you get a percentage of the money. So it's kind of an easy passive income thing. Kids projects. We have a page on our website for kids. They are great little fundraisers, and they raise some good money. We get a lot of kids coming in with checks for $2,000, $1,000. They've done garage sales, dog washes, bake sales. I mean, these kids are very, really into philanthropy, and there's a lot of great kids doing good work out there. Coins for Critters, little canisters that we put at businesses around San Diego. We do have on everything, and I encourage you to do this, QR code. A lot of people don't carry cash anymore or change. So put QR codes on as many things as you can to send people to your donate page, because a lot of people just don't carry cash anymore. And then a corporate give back, of course, that's the percentage of sale type deal. So I encourage you to look into local businesses that might be willing to do that for you. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation, but I do want to share a video with you, a fundraising video. And the reason I want to share it with you is because, again, it's a great story, and I think it will resonate with you about the story of the one. And also, video content is so critical. Alexa's going to talk more about that, but people like to see video. It is really what they're expecting to see when they go to fundraising campaigns, web pages, classy pages. And so think about your video content. You can do it with your phone. It's very easy these days to upload videos and do them really quickly, and they're very impactful. But before I show the video, I just want to see if anybody has any questions I can answer. And I guess they want you to stand over at the microphone if you want to do that. If anybody has any questions they want to ask. Yes. Okay. Oh, they want you to talk at the microphone. Sorry. Oh, it's right here. I know it's kind of dark over here. And if you say where you're from, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Mary Wilson, and I'm from the Treasure Valley, and I'm with Operation Community Cats. And my question is, I don't know if you have an answer to this, but is there some sort of a networking medium for veterinarians that where we could reach out to contact a whole bunch of them at one time to say, here's what's needed in the Treasure Valley? Because we got it going on. We just don't have anywhere to take all these thousands of feral cats we're trapping.
Yes.
So
I don't know the answer to that question, but we can definitely ask Mike when he gets back. And if neither of us know, we can definitely find out from our chief of staff, Dr. Gato, and see if she would have any recommendations for us. Happy to do that. That's a great question, and I think everybody would be interested in the answer. So thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you all. And like Mike said, you guys are the inspiration for what we do. We just are so inspired by how hard everyone's working and all the good work that you're doing on behalf of the animals. And just know that you have friends for life, and all of us, we're all happy to be a resource and to be available to you to answer questions and look at things you're working on or give you input as you go forward. So please be in touch and keep us posted on your goings on and how we can assist you. And now I'm going to share the Cleo video. Alexa's going to share the Cleo video. Thank you, Alexa.
When Cleo first came to us, she was a 4-day-old Sphinx kitten whose mom had not really produced any milk. So she had had very little feeding at all in her 4-day life. She was really underweight. Originally, the owners, this was their first time breeding. The mom was pretty young and she wasn't producing any milk. That's really hard, especially because they were novice breeders, and that's when they reached out to us. Cleo went home to one of our critical care fosters who was feeding her by hand, but it's never quite the same when there's not a mom around.
She was the teeniest, tiniest cat I've ever seen. She was so vulnerable and so in need of help and care, and so I think all of us really came in and we surrounded her with love and really hope, because we didn't know if she was going to make it or not. Her life depended on us, depended on fosters, depended on the abilities of our medical team.
We brought her in when she was about 10 days old to do a recheck, check all her vitals, and just by chance, we actually had another mom coming in with her brand new kittens. They were getting an exam. Right around when we were trying to feed Cleo her lunch, we actually had the idea, hey, this mom is here with her 1-day-old kittens, and here's Cleo, who, yeah, she's 10 days old, but she's malnourished. She's like the same size as these babies who are 1-day-old. So we decided to try. We put Cleo into the crate with mom and 3 kittens, let them smell each other. Within just a couple minutes already, Cleo was already suckling and Ballerina was already grooming her. We all got super excited. It was clear to us that Ballerina was willing to be a surrogate mom for Cleo. That meant that Cleo now had access to fresh, completely real milk, a mom who would groom her, who would take care of her, who would keep her warm. Through Ballerina, Cleo was able to find a real mom. She started to get a lot better. She started to look really healthy. The siblings all played with Cleo. She got so many pictures and videos taken of her, so many cuddles.
The awe and the interest in Cleo was almost unmatched for any other cat that we featured on social media. It's such a unique, rare breed, plus the fact that people who may love this breed also love to rescue. We definitely received so many direct messages from across the US, across the world, people saying, please let us know when her adoption date is.
It was time for Cleo to start looking for her forever home. We really needed an owner who would make sure she had the best care possible. Being a Sphinx, she has some different care needs than other cats. A Sphinx cat has no hair whatsoever. Without that, Sphinxes are more likely to accumulate dirt, especially in the folds of their skin. So Sphinxes require their owners to help them a lot. So having an owner who knows all of that, is prepared and well-versed in Sphinx care, was really important to us to make sure Cleo was as healthy and happy as possible.
We knew that she was a really special little kitten. We had so many people that had just had such a great passion for Sphinx cats. We did a special application process. Her adopter had a lot of Sphinx experience. They fostered cats and kittens throughout their lives. It was just a perfect connection. She immediately climbed into her lap. Cleopatra just kind of looked like she was right with her new mom, and she was just so overjoyed to finally be able to take her home. It was a really special moment for all of us here.
I saw the little story that ran in the newspaper, and I just immediately fell in love with her. I showed my husband, and he said that we needed to apply immediately. We already have a Sphinx at home. I think she's going to have a good life with us. We have a domestic short-haired cat who looks just like her foster mommy, and we have a Chug, a pug Chihuahua mix, who just thinks she's a kitty too and loves to snuggle with them. We're just overjoyed. And everybody who has helped us here has been just really wonderful.
Her new family is just incredible. They are in love with her. She is in love with them. She was already reading stories with her dad. So cute, the photos we received. She has been spoiled rotten by Blue Buffalo and also our friends at Naturally Fresh. So it was really awesome to see her just settling right into her home. Thinking back on Cleo's story, I think it really does show the amount of care, the amount of attention, the amount of supplies, the amount of love that we're able to provide here at the center. It took a village to raise her up from a days-old kitten to an adoptable cat. When you donate to the center, you know that we'll take a chance. We'll take a chance on cats like Cleo because we know in the end we're able to find them happily ever after. We're able to find them a home that will be set for life. The fact that we were able to see her through the most vulnerable stage of her life is a miracle. And she really ended up being one of those stories I'll never forget.
I love that video. I watched it so many times, I still love it. Okay, so we're going to wrap up my presentation, and now I think we're going to be heading into lunch. But before we do, I have one little housekeeping thing. Our friends at Blue Buffalo actually provided breakfast and lunch today, so I have a little video I want to share with you about the work that goes on at Blue Buffalo, and I think I need Alexa again to fire that up. But after we watch the video, then we'll break out into groups, and each of us has offered more than happy to spend time chatting with you over lunch about our different areas. Alexa's social media, Jess over here is PR. Obviously, I'm fundraising. Mike is, the guru of everything. So whoever you want to talk to, we'll kind of spread out in the room here so you can come on over and chat with us. And then we'll just show you the blue video and head off to lunch. Thanks, everybody.
This is Aurelia, my buddy here.
This is LT. I adopted him in 2007.
Luna was the cutest one in the box.
I've had people yell out their cars at me to ask what kind of dog she is and give her compliments.
Zoe's the best one. We tell her that all the time. She's the best one, just period.
Blue Buffalo is proud to be partnering with the Helen Woodward Animal Center on finding a forever home for the millions of dogs and cats that need one. We met Mike Arms and his team, and we just fell in love with the people and the ideas that they had about finding forever homes for millions of dogs and cats.
We want to bring attention to these orphan pets. We know that more pets go into American households during the holiday season, and we would like to fill those lovely homes with orphan pets, the pets that need a chance to live and to be fed. You heard them.
A lot of times you can tell immediately which dog or cat is going to go home with them.
She was the first dog we saw, and she jumped up on the cage.
So we thought as that a sign as she sort of picked us.
He just became an instant part of the family.
We started this program in 1999, and we invited all 14 organizations in San Diego. We wanted to bring the media in and show all of these orphan pets in our facilities and ask the public, is this really where you want them to spend their holidays? That year, collectively, we adopted our 2,563 pets. Now that program has grown. This year we have close to 4,000 organizations registered in Home for the Holidays. We set a goal for ourselves to do no less than 1 million adoptions this year. I think we're going to come closer to doing 1.5 million.
There's so many animals that need homes, especially ones in shelters, and there's no better time than the holidays to think about adopting one.
I just love it when a grandma comes in and finds that little dog who's going to sleep on her feet and who's going to watch the house, and I think that's the most touching.
We always just knew shelter animals seem to be the most grateful for their home, so.
We are so proud to be partnering with the Helen Woodward Animal Center to be part of the Blue Buffalo Home for the Holidays program. We share the same values, and we think it's just such a great fit, but we certainly can't beat what Mike and his team started many, many years ago. And hopefully with our help, we'll take this program to a whole nother level and adopt even more animals.
We're their only voice, and our voice is much stronger when we have a company like Blue Buffalo behind it.
Help us reach our goal of adopting 1 million pets this holiday season and give a dog or cat a loving, forever home. Visit homefortheholidays.org to find a shelter near you.
Thanks, everybody. Gwen, where do you want everybody to go?